Hey guys, how's everybody doing? I have a special fragrance review tonight. Least special to me because it's a fragrance that I love. I think it's a masterpiece. Absolutely beautiful. It's very polarizing fragrance, however. I've heard it called everything from eau de Play-Doh to eau de cat puke to a work of art. So just my opinion that I think it's a beautiful fragrance. We'll see what you guys think. It is from Guerlain's L'Art Et La Matiere collection, Cuir Beluga. Beautiful bottle. How I work fragrance reviews, I've wanted to do this for quite some time, but I was basing it on a sample. And so I didn't do the actual review. What I find with samples is you get those little bitty vials and you're trying to dab them on your skin, and it seems to me like the scent coming from the sample can sometimes, depending on the fragrance, be completely different than the scent once you actually get the full bottle. I don't know if it's the atomizer or the blend or the way you're dabbing a little sample on your skin, but in a lot of cases the bottle smells better, so I use the sample as a springboard to decide whether or not I want to buy the fragrance, but I always keep in the back of my mind that I think the fragrance will smell quite different and sometimes much better from the bottle. So I got the bottle, and we're going to be doing this awesome fragrance review this evening, so let's not waste any more time. Let's go.
C'est l'histoire de celle qui t'a tant aimé et qui t'a confié à moi.
Okay, so I can't stop smelling it. Alright, so the House of Guerlain, first of all, a little bit of history on it. It was founded in 1828 when Pierre-François Pascal Guerlain opened his perfume store at 42 Rue de Rivoli in Paris. It's one of the oldest perfume houses in Paris and in the world, among the oldest perfume houses. It's just this old, prestigious, luxury perfume house that's steeped in history, and I think it's fascinating. If it were like a cruise line, it would be like the Cunard cruise line, for instance. Jean-Paul Guerlain was the fourth generation Guerlain and was the last family master perfumier. So from 1828 until he retired, Jean-Paul, in 2002, there was each master perfumier of this house was actually a Guerlain, which I find fascinating. He retired in 2002, and with no heir from inside the family to take over the role of master perfumier, that was no longer tied to the family succession, unfortunately. So in 1994, the company was sold to Moet Hennessy Louis Vuitton, and Jean-Paul remained as the in-house perfumier until 2002. After 1994, however, other perfumiers were brought in to compose perfumes for Guerlain, and Jean-Paul had to submit his compositions against the other perfumiers. So the first post Louis Vuitton release was the 1995 floral creation Champs-Élysées, and it was composed by Olivier Polge and was selected as an entry over Jean-Paul Guerlain's, which was seen as a slap in the face kind of among fragrance aficionados. Interestingly enough, Jicky is the oldest fragrance which is still in continuous production, and that is a Guerlain fragrance. It was initially marketed to men, but then became popular with women and is now considered a unisex fragrance. And it actually is the first fragrance that is referred to or was referred to as a perfume. It was initially, like I said, more successful with men, but still available today. The olfactory memory that most Guerlain fragrances carry is referred to as Guerlainade, and almost every Guerlain fragrance has this, and it usually includes notes of bergamot, tonka, and vanilla. And they specialize in vanilla. They do it like no other fragrance house, and it's a creamy, luxury, rich, desserty type of vanilla. So obviously this is going to be a gourmand. Onto the fragrance. Cuir Beluga was launched in 2005 by perfumier Olivier Polge, and it was part of what was called L'Art Et La Matiere collection, and that was developed, I think it was more of Guerlain's answer to niche perfumery, which was becoming popular at that time. It was developed, L'Art Et La Matiere was developed to celebrate Guerlain's newly refurbished perfume house and flagship boutique in Paris. There were originally 3 fragrances that were created as part of the L'Art Et La Matiere collection, and 3 noses were asked to develop the fragrances. They were asked to freely express passion for an original, precious, raw material, and to show that through fragrances. Kind of like, what it reminds me of is kind of like Frederic Mall's line, where he more or less gave his perfumiers free reign to create whatever fragrance they chose without constraint and an unlimited budget. And that's kind of what this line, L'Art Et La Matiere, reminds me of. The first 3 were Rose Barbare, Angelique Noir, and Cuir Beluga. They later added more to this line. Bois d'Armine, Iris Ganache, Cruel Gardenia, and Tonka Imperial were later added. As I said, Cuir Beluga was introduced by Olivier Polge, and it has notes of mandarin, everlasting flower, amber, heliotrope, and vanilla, of course, Guerlain signature. What it reminds me of, I have had this fragrance on all day, and I sprayed it this morning at like 6:30 in the morning. It's now, what, 9:30, 9:48 at night. I can still smell it. I can still smell the base. That creamy vanilla is still there. What it reminds me of on first spray, you get an initial burst of citrus, I would say. Like, that mandarin note is right on the top, but that fades quickly. It's an, what do I picture? It's like an opulent pillow of vanilla pods is what I get, infused with like almost like cake frosting or cake icing, sugar, and pulverized almonds. Another analogy is like if you go to a bakery, do you know what cream horns are, or cream curls? Those flaky puff pastry, long horn shaped things that are filled with like creme anglaise. Not the cheap ones at the supermarket, but if you go to a nice bakery and with the white bakery boxes, and on the inside, if you were open up the box, and there are those golden colored puff pastry cream horns, and on the outside the big chunks of baking sugar and they've stuck the cream horns like under a broiler for a few minutes, so the sugar is caramelized and crystallized, and then on top of that there's like a slivered toasted almond topping, and you were to take that box and open it and just stick your face into that box and smell, That's what this is. It's just vanilla and creamy almond and an icing, like a sugary smell. I find it minimalist in almost every regard, except for its potency, meaning I don't find it sickeningly sweet. There's a transparency to it, which is really nice. It's kind of like Frederic Mall's Eau de Verre, in that it's not overwhelming with notes or with sweetness. It opens with that blast of like aldehydic mandarin, I would say, and then it moves into the everlasting flower, and it dries into that amber, soft amber. If it were strong and weren't in the background, I wouldn't be able to wear it, but it's like a soft, sensual amber vanilla combination that it dries down into. And the difference between this and some of the other gourmands, like New Harlem by Bond Number 9, that one is like a sweet syrupy deal that you can, the smell is so strong, like I said in my other review, it hits you in the back of the palate and you can taste it. It's that strong and assaulting to me almost. Sometimes I can take it, sometimes not, whereas with this one, I think that everlasting flower and the heliotrope, it's like it drops a screen in front of the vanilla amber base, so you smell it and you can see it. It's like you're looking through a window, but you're not actually tasting it. And that's where the minimalism comes in, I think, and where the limit, as far as the number of ingredients that are included, there aren't that many. It's not like a Jubilation 25 where there are 5 million ingredients. There are a few, 6 or 7 that I mentioned, but they're so expertly blended, it's just spectacular. And a delicious fragrance, and you absolutely are getting what you pay for as far as the longevity goes. It's never cloying. Today I did 3 sprays. I did one right here, which is pretty close to my nose, and then one on each wrist. And like I said, it wasn't something that stuck with me all day constantly, but when I moved or I would go outside and a breeze would blow, it would be there. I didn't have a problem wearing it today. It was like low 80s today. Beautiful in the evening, but also light enough. It's a weird juxtaposition because the ingredients and the smells bring to mind heaviness with the dessert kind of factor, but light enough and minimalist enough, like I was saying, that it can be worn, I would say in early summer, late spring, and would be wonderful in fall and winter. It's the name Cuir Beluga, cuir meaning French for leather, and beluga is a species of whale. It's a small whale and almost transparent white. So I think what they're saying is, it sounds like an awful name, but I think what they're saying is giving an analogy to a white, beautiful suede-like, expensive leather. There's no leather note in this, but it's the idea of leather. And when you're setting maybe in a really expensive car, one of those Italian cars that are all white on the inside, kind of that suedey, leathery, expensive smell. And that's where I think the name comes from. Yeah, because it's definitely, I don't get a leather accord at all. It gives illusion maybe to an expensive type of suede or leather, excuse me. Just a masterpiece. L'Art Et La Matiere is, like I said, one of Guerlain's high-end lines. I would kind of liken it to the Hermescence line by Hermes, Dior's collection Privé, maybe that XJ17 line by Serjoff, one of the higher ends, but a beautiful fragrance. So the fragrance does come with the bulb or the regular atomizer, your choice of which you want to use. Hope you enjoyed the review, guys. Take care, have a good night.